So when we bring this image in, we can see it's not looking so great. It's a little bit too dark. It's got a very cool mood, but a little bit too dark. So one of the things that I want to show you is that you can automatically set the white balance of this raw image by simply moving right here to this basic area of the processing side. And we're going to choose auto. And that allows you to automatically set the white balance of this image. Now in our image, we didn't see a lot because it looks like the white balance was already properly set for the lighting. The other thing that I noticed though is that it's really dark. So I can choose auto right here, and Photoshop will seek out what it thinks are the best settings to use for this image. And you know what? Did a pretty good job. This image is looking great, but I always like to play around a little bit. And raw image processing is very, very powerful. There's a ton of settings. It's pretty fun to just sit and play around with them a little bit and see what they do as you just kind of change things back and forth. And so like here, as I bring the highlights up, you can see that it's helping me get those whites a little bit brighter, but note that it doesn't change the overall. Look at the face isn't changing, but the shirt is really getting brighter or darker. So you can see that editing in RAW is very, very powerful. It's a great tool to use. And whenever you have the option, when you're getting images from the client, if you're working for somebody else, or when you're working with your own images, if you have the option to get the RAW file to work with, it's absolutely what you want to be working with. They're very powerful and very, very flexible images. You can push them a lot farther than you can just a standard JPEG. A raw image is all of the information that the camera sensor saw. So even the stuff that's really, really dark, just like when we first saw it, this image looks really dark and you can really lose a lot of details up here in John's face. But when you click auto, look at that. It just restores the face. With a JPEG, it's a lot harder to do that, especially depending on the compression. It may be impossible to bring that information up because it just may have been thrown out. So play around with the settings and get the image looking the way you want. I'm going to bring it up just a little bit. And that's looking pretty good. As long as I'm in the general range, when I bring it into Photoshop, I can still modify a lot of these settings. So it doesn't have to be perfect. I just want to make sure that I get it close and I can get the details that I need. Also, when you're bringing images in, a lot of times it's better to bring them a little bit brighter than dark because it tends to be a little bit easier with digital images to darken them down a little bit and hide things in shadows. That's a little bit easier than Photoshop pulling details from shadows, like up here in the face. So I usually bring it in just a little bit brighter than maybe I want it, but I try to get pretty darn close. But when in doubt and I'm not sure, a little bit brighter, lean on the brighter side. So now all I have to do that I'm done developing this raw file is simply click OK. And it brings it into Photoshop as a new layer. Now it looks terrible right now because I haven't yet placed it. What I need to do is click on this check mark up here. And there we go. Now it's looking nice and clear. And I want to move this to the left side of my image. And note that down here in my layers palette, this layer has a special little indicator on it. You see how it looks like that piece of paper with kind of a square cut out and floating above it? That indicates to me that this is a smart object. Smart objects are a very special type of layer. They're very powerful, and we're going to talk about them more in depth later. But the bottom line is that I can't really do any damage to this photo while it's a smart layer. Any changes that I make to the image, any adjustments, any filters that I apply, as long as it's a smart object, I can turn them on, turn them off, reset them. It's really, really powerful to work with smart objects. And we'll explore a little bit more about that in an upcoming video.